Hey, good evening, everyone. Welcome to Open Mic, another session, another evening. It's going to be such a fun uh, evening. I look forward to every Thursday to this. And so does Tanis, yeah. And I'm sure there's also a group that also is waiting for this because we get a lot of people every Thursday, which is awesome. Thank you very much for joining in. And just a quick intro. My name is Ramsey. I'm a medium. I also do energy healing and spiritual coaching. Hannes, my co-host, she is responsible for the twillowlifestyle.ca, so she'll introduce herself. Go ahead, Hannes.
Yeah, I'm owner and operator of Twillo Lifestyle Community and Twillo Lifestyle Academy. And I am an intuitive energy healer, crystal master, Celtic shamanic high priestess, galactic ambassador, and a channel. And I'm excited to be here.
That is awesome. So, just a quick bit of a classified at the beginning. We always do that, so we get it out, and we'll move forward with our episode tonight. So, pencil in June 12th. Try to keep the whole day available. Something big is happening. We kind of touched on it last time, but I'm gonna keep this as a surprise for whoever did not or was not available last week. But do keep it in. We'll put it in the notes somewhere. I don't know if I type something in over here. I don't know if where it shows up because we're on Facebook Live and on YouTube Live also. So I'm not sure if I type something, it goes somewhere or just disappears in cyberspace.
Maybe
So,
what we can
but
do is put it in the comments underneath
yeah,
after the show.
yeah, I will do that too. So pencil in June 12th, surprise. Let it be available for that day. Another thing is that we're coming to the summer well summer holidays, and I'm sure everybody wants to be out instead of being in. So I think we'll still have a couple of open mic sessions, maybe 3 or 4. We'll see how it goes, and then we'll retire for the summer, and we'll prepare something for you for the fall. This is not the ending, it's the ending for the season. It will be coming back with a full-fledged and hopefully with some graphics that I know how to use because right now I have no idea. I was actually freaking out before getting on camera because something went wrong with this one. So anyways, we'll have something ready for you by then. Tanis, do you have any infomercial that you'd like to start with?
Well, I'm offering a free class on Saturday at 1 o'clock, getting to know your energy system. So if
Awesome.
anyone is on and they want to join us for that class, just go to twillowlifestyle.ca and go to the events, and it is getting to know your energy system, and it'll say after it complimentary. So just come on and join us and learn about your energy field. hmm There's all sorts of stuff going on. So take a look at the page because there's yoga and there's classes and there's all sorts of fun stuff.
And also, you'll see on that page the what do you call it? The courses that I'll be offering. Also, I'll just give you a little hint. We actually we talked about the what do you call it? Intro to spiritual messages.
Mhm.
That will be coming back again soon. I'm just trying to figure out dates and stuff. Um, I will also be doing some intro to the art of meditation and moving forward with development of your psychic and mediumship. So there's a lot happening in the backgrounds. Nothing has been finalized or solidified, but something is happening on June 12th. Again, pencil that day, and you'll hear about it shortly.
And it's going to be a lot of fun.
It's gonna be fun, fun, fun. I can't wait for it. Actually, I'm overly excited. I started to write things for that day. I'm not
Woohoo!
sure. how to write things because I usually allow it to flow. I don't block anything with words. So we'll see how it goes. It's going to be very, very interesting.
Sometimes
So
writing is just about organizing your thoughts, and then you let it flow.
absolutely, never thought of it this way. It's actually a good what do you call it? A good tip
Hmm.
because I go with the flow. But if the flow is actually more organized, it will flow better.
Well, you and I channel a lot, so we just tend to let it go. I mean, really, guys, none of this is planned. We just kind of get on and we like let spirit talk to us, and it just comes through. And so that's kind of what that's how we operate. Um, yeah, and I suspect June 12th will be similar.
Oh yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But on June 12th, there's going to be more people involved in it. So stay tuned.
Mm-hmm. It'll be fun.
So today's main topic, I thought it would be interesting to just give it a theme to start something every time we have this open mic. And tonight is we said we're gonna defend the ego's reputation. As you know, the ego got hit hard recently, and not sure why, or maybe some people took it to an extreme, and they destroyed the ego's reputation. So the ego is sitting there somewhere in a corner, not able to face the world because it has a bad rep. And I thought, wait, why not try to defend it tonight and talk a bit about the ego? Tanis,
Mm-hmm.
what does ego mean to you? So we first define it from
Yeah,
different perspectives.
I think that's a good idea. Yeah, because I think when people say ego, people often think of that like the egotistical kind of I know everything kind of mindset, and I don't think that's really what in it when we talk about it in a spiritual sense. That's not really what we mean. That I know everything kind of ego mindset. The I'm king boss kind of that.
Yeah.
People think that's the ego, and that's not really what the ego is. It's about your individuality. It's about your monkey brain, right? And how
Hmm.
you think. Um, and really, we can't get rid of the ego entirely. I mean, we wouldn't. The ego is what partially what keeps us safe, right? Because the ego thinks something, and then they think about consequences. So it is part of what keeps us safe in life. The trouble with the ego is that sometimes it runs off on its own, and it gets a little overactive, and then we get anxiety, and we get all that kind of overthinking stuff, and it tends to turn on us a little bit in terms of um, you know that self-talk, the negative self-talk. So the negative self-talk often comes from the ego. It's not coming from the heart space, and so that's where it's getting its bad rap, is just because we tend to, it's our wounding talking
Yeah.
often. And so when we can start to do some of those self-care and the healing, it helps to keep that ego mind at bay a little bit. So that's kind of how I see it. It's a necessary part. We have to use that part to like function in the 3D. It's almost like it's the 3D part of us, and then we pull in the spiritual, that higher self part as well. And so
Mm.
if we can find a balance between the two, then that's really kind of where we can find that equilibrium.
Yeah. From my view, which is just a way, it's a different way of looking at it. An ego is a compilation of events, experiences, things that happened with us over the years, and it kind of started to shape who we are.
Mm-hmm. That
So,
individuality.
yeah, that individuality is your ego. So, without this, you don't exist, like you mentioned.
Mm-hmm.
This is me. And it's funny when I see things on Facebook says I slay your dragons. You can never slay your dragon. You can't kill your eagle. It doesn't yes, I'm so sorry. I know you're attached to your dragons. I do apologize. So it's you can't get rid of who you are. What you can do is you can control your reaction to certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the ego itself is your personality. Your personality's attachments to things become that negative part of the ego that basically most spiritual pages and writings talk about, is that portion where it attaches itself to material stuff. So if you take that out of the equation and you control it, whereby, because I want to say one thing is that you can't control it completely.
Mm-hmm.
It's like how do you say? It's like a sound wave. As long as you have it within a certain limit,
Frequency. Mm-hmm.
frequency. Thank you. That was what I was looking for. As long as you have it within that frequency, it's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. And when it started to goes up or goes down, that's where we start to have to be aware of it and mindful of our actions and reactions to certain things, whereby we bring it back to bay. The
Mm-hmm.
ego is the enemy.
Hi, Esther.
I I did not read that book, so I don't know anything about it, to be honest with you.
No, I haven't read that one either.
Okay,
Sounds
so
interesting.
it does, but the title is kind of like misleading. Staying, slaying the FM hill. Sorry,
Feminine, masculine. Is that what you mean? Could be.
it's a must read. Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Slaying the feminine, masculine. Okay. So slaying to me, like, so the only thing that, for me, the language around how that is worded is skating the dragon. Oh, slaying the dragon made me think of the book. Yes.
Oh,
Okay. So the language of, the enemy, and so shadow work is done when we start to look at all aspects of self and we start to accept all aspects of self. So instead of, I would be encouraging us to look at the ego as another part of self, so that we're not. It's almost like vilifying the ego in the title of the book. I'm sure it's got great content, and I'm not putting that down. I just think that the looking at the ego as the enemy, as opposed to looking at it as part of us and working on shadow work to accept that part of us, I think is an important part of our work. When we're on the spiritual journey. So I'm sure there's some great stuff in there about what the ego is, and it's probably a great way to define it. And certainly looking at the male-female aspect and how to balance those
that was the word.
is
That was.
is great. Ryan Holiday is the author. Cool. Mm-hmm.
Thank you for
Awesome.
sharing it with us.
Thank
Yeah. So again, it's we can't slay our dragon. And please, I think I should change that phrase.
No slaying dragons.
No
Dragons
dragons.
are getting upset.
We have to tame it. I know. Not long ago, I was in a in a dark place where everything was personal. That's where the ego was. Hi, Betsy.
Hi, Betsy.
Where the ego lies is when you're in a dark space and everything becomes at a personal level. So there's
Mm-hmm.
always reactions to certain things. And that's where we need to, I love dragons, love them too. That's where we need to start pulling back and understanding who we truly are and awakening to our true selves.
Mm-hmm.
And from there, we start working with our ego to make it a friend rather than having an internal conflict over what is right and what is wrong. Because if we're looking to remove our ego completely, so we have a double personality that is fighting within each other, inside us. And that creates an external conflict too.
Hmm.
Do you agree with my analogy?
Yeah, I think that, that's where that shadow work comes in, right? It's about accepting that so that you don't have the cognitive dissonance of the two sides. So
Yeah.
it's about looking at it all as one. And I know that I did a recent channeling even that, you know, spoke about things being positive and negative. Well, that's just the energy, or the energy that we project onto them, is whether they're positive or negative. Things just are. And, it's the value that we put on it that becomes something becomes negative or it becomes positive. I mean, and a lot of that is built into our value system and even our legal system, which we do need to have because that helps us function with each other. But again, that's part of the ego part, is having that kind of structure in place, right? So structure is more about that. The ego is like that structural piece that we have to logically think through things in order to put things into action. So I think that Sharon is correct. She says there is positive and negative to everything. Choose what's good at the moment in time. Ego can be good and also negative depending on how you use it. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And
How you
Esther,
use
I love my dragons too.
it.
Hi, Shem. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming.
So one thing you mentioned is that there's no good or bad. It's just the meaning that we give it, which is great because, well, I'm reading. I'm just learning a bit about the Andean civilization. They're one of the greatest down in South America, and one of the things that they have is that the universe is broken down into three pieces: the upper, the middle, and the lower. The middle is where we lie, and the upper is where you have a higher vibration, and the lower is where you have a denser vibration. They don't call it good or bad.
Mm-hmm.
It's just the frequency of the vibration where it is, and it moves between the lower to the middle to the top. And because they don't have a good and bad, everything is just is, as you have mentioned, as
Mm-hmm.
long as you don't have an attachment to it. The more you attach, the heavier it gets, and you start sinking down and down with it. You let go, you rise with it. We have something from Randall. Well, that's
Hi,
all
Randall.
good. Build up, build you up, and wait. If you fail, that's when your ego comes in. Yeah, that's where your vibration starts rising beyond the level of peace, and you
Mm-hmm.
get caught into an argument. One of the things that I started doing is watching my reaction to things that are happening. And at the beginning, it used to be hard because, well, one, I'm hot blooded. Two, I'm an Arab, so there's no fuse. So things just happen, there's no channeling. It channels the anger always. And slowly I started to become more aware of my reaction, to a point where at the beginning it will flare up, and then slowly halfway through, and slowly I have it kind of under control. 90% of the time I evaluate before I act, and you get that 10% of the time, man, you just you just explode, and then you start pulling back at the same time. So it's a balancing act. I understand it's a bit hard at the beginning.
For sure, for sure. And that's where we start looking at triggers, right? Because the more we have triggers and the more energy there is behind those triggers that you have, which are all from our programming, our past experiences, and past lives, as well as this one. Like, it's not just this one. And so triggers become what pushes us to react as opposed to respond to things. So that 10% that you're talking about is when we react to something as opposed to respond, right?
Yeah.
Doesn't your ego control that? Well, I would say partially. um, but I think that the more the more trauma work you can do, the more releasing, the more healing work, you can sort of take some of that control away from the denser energy of the ego kind of thing, because it's not really that it's controlling that, you know, where emotions are not really about the ego. Emotions are from the heart, right? They're and they can be dense. It's just energy that runs through the body. And so really when you look at emotions, it's your body feeling things. It's a physical sensation, right?
Mm.
Yeah, the fight or flight, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. And triggers are what trigger that, the fight or flight.
Yes.
So the triggers are what when we're doing healing work, that's what we address is looking at the triggers, right?
And if you
So
can
we
have,
yep.
go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, if you can have space between words, that's where you'll have control over the reactions and the emotions.
Mm-hmm.
And you can create that space with a deep breath. You can create that space. You count to 10.
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't count past 0, but with time it started to get better and better, and then I was able to create that space between the trigger and my action, and that space brings you to a point of heart-based reaction action rather than an ego-based reaction.
Mm-hmm. So a heart-based response instead of
Yes.
an ego-based reaction, right? Yeah, I like what Shem's saying here about to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. The serenity prayer, yeah, for sure. And it has helped, you know, billions of people, that serenity prayer, in all sorts of instances. Because there are things that we can't really change, but sometimes we can change how we look at it, and that's kind of what that speaks to. Is the wisdom to know the difference is the wisdom to know what I need to change in me because I can't change what's happening out there. Right? So ultimately we're not responsible for other people's actions or reactions. We're only responsible for our own actions and reactions. Right? So yes, like Esther says, mindfully creating space for yourself so that if you do have those triggers, you know that you have that space. You know, it's funny. Um, you know, you get an email and you get angry and you're like, or you get upset or you get sad and you're like, you want to just, I'm really training myself to step back and just take a few minutes, walk away, go for a walk, come back and go, okay, now what did I really get upset about? What do I really want to say in the email? Because it's really not that initial reaction. That's not what you want to say, but it is what comes out in that reaction. And that reaction is basically, so from my experience, when you look at the energy system, the things that we react to are things that we have taken energy and we have pushed it down. And so when we react, it's because we can't push that particular energy down anymore because it's just like that last straw on the camel's back. And then that energy comes out. And how do we get out energy? We get out energy with any bodily functions. So we cry, we could yell, we could, do anything that we need to do to release the energy. So some people will go for a walk and that helps them release the energy, right? You can breathe, that helps you release the energy. But when we're in that fight or flight mode, like what Randall was saying, you react, right?
Yeah. Like yesterday, I was coaching somebody regarding that, and he's a medium, and he doesn't like when people praise him. Oh, you did a great job. He feels, I don't know. So he gets, well, it comes from shyness and stuff like that, but there's a reaction to the praise. So one of the things that you do is that understand the person that is given the praise, or understand the person that is instigating you, because that's what it is. If it's a praise or something else, he's getting instigated. There's a trigger point that is coming from an external factor. So if you understand the person's point, he's grateful, or he or she are grateful for the service that you've given, you'll understand that where they're coming from, they're very happy with the message that you gave them. It has nothing to do with you. It could have been some other guy or some other lady, or I don't know, some machine that gives you a note. You know, those fortune tellers in a carnival. It didn't matter. It's just take yourself out of the equation, and you realize is that it is that person, the one in front of you, that has either the issue or wants to send the praise. In this case, it was to send the praise. And once we were able to disconnect the two, it became easier to accept the praise. Mm-hmm. Because it's not about me.
Yeah.
So now we put a kind of a wall to show that no, it's not about me. It's about that person. Mm-hmm. And then once we have that understanding, it becomes easier to overcome those triggers. Poop.
What's the poop for, Asta? We might need a little more information on that. That's a hard question to answer.
We'll have to do a full episode on that.
Sharon says, if I feel a trigger, I like to see a red light that's saying stop, step back and think what's real at the moment in time and what is just ego or past baggage. Yes. And so in our example of respond versus react, like people don't make us do a response or a react. That's the other thing, right? We're like, they made me so mad. No, we made ourselves mad. It's the language that we use in our everyday lives that, we've been programmed to think that person made us mad. Well, it's not that person, actually. It's our internal stuff that has made us angry about something. It doesn't mean that it's any less valid. Mm-hmm. But our reaction is all about us. It's nothing to do with them. So if somebody reacts to you, to something that you've done, then that's their thing, right? It's not really. So if I could say something with as much compassion and love as I can, and somebody could still react to that. But that's not necessarily, it's not something I've done. If I've said it with compassion and in my intention is good, then it's that person's ego or that person's shadow stuff that's coming up to the surface to be cleared. Right? It's a very paradoxical thinking to what we have been thinking or what we've been programmed with, right? But we do need to have the right intentions going into conversations. So I'm not saying in any way that we can go in and do whatever we want.
No.
And not have a reaction, right?
Yep.
Because we do have to take responsibility for how we act, because we are responsible for how we act. So we still have to come into conversations with that compassion for others and compassion for self, right? Yes, negativity usually sets people off because negativity is a dense energy.
Yes, right? And it's in us anyways. So it right into the heart, like it's a spear that triggers something from our past because we all. Now, just to say one thing regarding the lineups, I saw something about lineups somewhere. Okay, I used to get what do you call it, edgy and okay, I curse people, but it's like you're getting to the cashier for example at a store. You're getting to the cashier. You're almost there. There's one person in front of you, and that person is bagging his stuff and leaving. Have your stuff ready. It's either the cash, the change, or your credit card. No, we stand there in front of the cashier and we wait, item by item. When it finishes, we start packing, and then we go, oh, we have to pay. Oh, let me count the pennies that I have. And I used to lose it. Oh, you deleted it. So what I do now is that I'm more present. I don't care what is happening on the outside, because that I can't control it. I can't make it go faster, and I can't make it go slower. So what I used to do, and I still do, is I start reciting a mantra all the time, and that puts me back into present. I'm aware of myself. I can see what's happening. Nothing is bothering me. I'm in my Zen place,
Hmm.
and the line will just pass faster. And sometimes I can't take it, but it just passes faster.
Right. Hmm.
And mantra does help to ground you and bring you back to where your Zen spot is.
Yeah, for sure. What's your favorite mantra?
Om Mani Padme Om. I just
It's
can't
an
stop
awesome.
saying that. Yeah,
Yeah, that's a great one.
it's a good prayer. It's a protector,
Hmm.
and I like the way it flows and is stuck in my head. It's the only mantra that I was able to recite nonstop on a daily basis, to a point where I used to wake up in the middle of the night reciting it. So it's going in my sleep too.
Yep.
Yeah.
-5s, you have to relax and chat up the woman next to you. Then the line passes better,
There you
faster.
go.
Yeah,
Vibes. Yeah.
vibes. Yeah, I think it's vibes. Hmm.
Sharon, what does it mean? Which one, Sharon? Is it Randall's message?
I think it might be.
Okay.
They look like they're both on Facebook. So.
Okay.
Hmm.
So back to our good old ego.
So some people also like to see, like to look at things as, what you're reacting to is somebody mirroring something back to you that you don't like much about yourself. So how does that sit with you?
Sorry, I
So
was sending.
you're,
Ah,
you're sending out the Om Mani Padme Om. Yeah, great. Yeah, how does that sit with you when
which
people
one?
say?
Sorry.
So some people say that when you're reacting to something,
Mm-hmm.
it's because that person is mirroring something back about you
Yeah,
that you're not all that comfortable with in your.
correct. It's the mirror effect.
Mhm.
So most of us, all of us, we have events that happen in our lives that left a mark in there. And although we believe we're not doing the same thing, but we are on a daily basis, but we can't see it because it's part of who we are. And that's where you have to play with the shadow work and our egos. So when we see someone doing the same thing, we get irritated because it brings out something in us. It brings out not something, but it brings out old emotions that are stuck within the event that took place in the past. And that would trigger a reaction to defend ourselves.
Mhm.
Now, because that energy is sitting within us and we vibrate on a daily basis, we're vibrating that energy. We might not see it, or we think we're mightier than thou or higher than thou, whatever. It doesn't matter how it's said. So we don't see that part of us that is radiating outward. So what we tend to do is just see it in others.
Mhm.
And even the Bible brings it up, is that don't look at the splinter in your brother's eye, look at the log in yours. We tend not to see that, and we project on others that this is what they're doing. And once you get triggered, and that's where the shadow work comes in, is go back internally and see why it irritated you. What I've noticed with all the work that I've done is that I tend to find certain events that are linked to that emotion. So I pull them out. I literally pull the thing out and I let it go through my head again, the event, the whole event. One, the event is from a single point of view. Always. It's mine. So with my single point of view, I already judge everybody else. So it's done. It's over. It's stamped. There's a court order. They're all judged. But then because now I'm looking at it from a different direction, I'm pulling out that event. I'm able to switch sides and see it from a different point of view. And once I do that, I tend to understand the other person's point of view. Compassion comes out.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't mean that the other person was right, because I'm never wrong. But in this case, I wasn't right. So once I have compassion for the other person, the emotion attached to that event just dissipates. Mm-hmm. So when it happens again, it doesn't bother me as much. And with time, it just fades away. Yeah. And that's the shadow work that we do. And we have to do that on a daily basis. I know it's such a hassle to have to go into your deep, darkest emotion, your painful part of your body, of your psyche, and try to get it out and say, oh, let me watch this horror movie all over again, one more time, and see what happened there. But the outcome, the releases that takes place by doing that are extremely helpful. It makes you lighter. And with that, it makes you a better person, not to the external world, but to yourself. Mm-hmm. Because slowly, we start to have compassion to ourselves. And we start to love ourselves again.
Yeah.
And that's the key.
Because and the other thing that came up for me with that compassion for others thing is, we're all only equipped with whatever our programming is until we start to unpack that. Right? Yeah. And so there was a comment here from Randall, parents leave a mark. Yes, they do. That is our programming. We're programmed by our experiences, our parents, our influential people in our lives. And so they do leave a mark. Is it good or bad? That's the experience that or the value that we put on it. But it does create your toolbox, per se. Okay. And so when we have reactions and stuff like that, it's usually because we don't have a tool for that. We're not equipped to deal with that emotion at that time. And so when we can look at others that are reacting and like sending stuff at us, if we look at it that they're not equipped, they don't have the tools to work through that. Somehow that makes it easier because you can understand if someone's never learned how to communicate properly, or someone's never learned how to ground their energy so that they don't react. That's just what they're equipped with. Now, that's not to say that we have to allow that energy to happen all the time, right? That's another whole topic. That's about boundaries and all of that. But we can understand that they don't have that equipment or those tools to be able to manage what's happening at the moment, right? So just like you wouldn't, like a 5-year-old, you wouldn't expect them to be able to do something that an adult would be able to do, right? It's the same kind of thing. If someone hasn't had the experience and they haven't done that learning, we can't expect them to do something that they don't know how to do. And so when we look at others in how they've grown up or what their tools are, because that is what we create when we learn and we create tools for ourselves. So when we look at others and they don't have the experience that we have, because we all have unique experiences, right? Some are huge and lots of learning. Some Some go through little experiences and they get different tools. So everybody has their own little set of toolboxes that they collect from all their. So if somebody hasn't had that same experience as you, when we go in and judge them from our point of view, we need to remember they don't necessarily have the same tools as we do. So when we judge them for acting a certain way, because that's how we would act, that's like judging a 5-year-old for acting like they can't drive the car, like, so
Yeah.
if you can start to, and I mean, those are extreme examples, of course. And it doesn't necessarily, I'm not saying that it excuses the behavior, because we are all responsible for our own actions and reactions. What I'm saying is that it allows us to be able to look at it in a different perspective, that we can look at it with that compassionate lens if we see them as tools that we learn along the way. Yeah. So let's take a look here. We've got a couple more comments from Shem. Sometimes people do on purpose try to irritate us. Yes, they do. But that doesn't mean that we need to get irritated. That's our responsibility, right?
Yes.
And Shem says, what I've learned is not to give away my power. Yes. And it's better to be kind than right. That is true, because right is a moving target. What's right for me may not be right for you, right? Based on our tools. So, yeah, for sure. Also, the environment. Yes, your environment is part of your toolkit, really, because it's part of your learning, right? How you grew up, all that environment that you've been exposed to, all of those things are factors in creating your own toolkit. And understanding people's perception. Yeah.
So once you understand people's perception, it all falls apart. There's nothing left. And I just want to point out that people don't irritate you on purpose. They are irritated. They just radiate it because they hold pain. Mm-hmm. So if you're holding pain all your life, all you're doing is radiating that pain. So it radiates everywhere. It's not only for one person, it radiates everywhere. And one of the things I learned is that from landmark education is that the way you do one thing is the way you do it every time. So
unless you make the conscious change.
Yes. Once you do the change, once you put a wedge in it, mm-hmm. It completely changes. It completely changes, and a new you will come out. And then when you look at your old you and you go, oh, really? Oh, I was a horrible person. But at that point in time, you were God gift to humanity. Well, at least I was. But now I understand that I wasn't. And it wasn't because
absolutely we are. You were too. We all are. We are God's. We're divine beings. That is our job. That is our role here. So we absolutely are. And it doesn't matter if it's with the tools that we have today or the tools that we had then. We are still divine beings.
True. Agree with that. I wanted to make a point that we never see ourselves in a dark mirror. Right. We always see ourselves in the light, even if we're wrong. We justify it. But once we start to do the shadow work, then the light will come out on its own. Yeah. And you crack the egg just a little bit, the light is so strong that it will break it. It will break it, and you don't have control afterwards to stop it. Oh, no. Hold on. I want to go back to where I was. It just doesn't work. Yeah. Because now your perception has changed. Everything within you has changed. So you can't go back. You just have to continue moving forward. And life is a continuous movement forward.
And we are never the same person 2 days in a row.
Nope.
Because every day we learn something. Every day we add to our toolbox. Apparently that's my theme tonight, toolbox.
Yeah, toolbox, yeah.
We're all teaching each other, good or bad. Hopefully we are teaching more good. Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, good or bad, what is good or bad? Our teaching's bad if it's a teaching? What is good or bad? It's the value we place on it.
Yes. It's the meaning we give it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, uh, for example, if you go to Saudi Arabia and if you show your ankle, you end up in jail. That's bad because you showed your ankle as a woman. And if you come to North America and you're on the beach and you're actually wearing a top, that's bad. What's wrong with you not wearing a bathing suit? So it's all relative from where you're looking at.
That's right. Mm-hmm. Shem says, and in whose eyes? Yeah.
Yeah.
Hi, LA. Yeah, we are a cumulative effect from our experiences, and those change all the time. That's right. Yeah. Because every experience changes who we are. Every experience we learn something from, whether it's conscious or unconscious.
Yeah.
Right. And that's kind of, so that's sort of the difference, I would say, when you get into being on the spiritual journey and working on the great work that is bringing consciousness to that learning, is what I would say, right? So we all learn, whether we realize it or not, as we go along. But when you start to raise your vibration and you start to become more conscious and more aware, more awake, they say, right? When you start to become more awake, you're more aware of this learning that is going on. And that is the gift that is given when you start the healing and the learning journey. Yeah. And that's what healing is, really. It's a learning journey. The more we learn about ourselves, it's a journey of self-discovery. That's what the spiritual healing journey is. Oh, I was frozen for a second. I think I'm back.
Yeah, you did freeze a couple of times.
Oh.
But split of a second. I think it's an internet thingy.
All right.
So, actually, self-awakening. Yes. Oh, what I was going to say, yes. The more you shed of this old programming, and when I say shed, you don't take it away. You just understanding. That's what it is. Mm-hmm. The more you understand the old programming, the more compassionate you become to yourself and to others. Mm-hmm. The more compassionate you become, the brighter your third eye becomes. You'll be able to see differently. You'll be able to see further than what is in front of you.
Mm-hmm. Deeper.
Deeper. Thank you. That's a good word. Add it to the toolbox tonight.
See, we all learn. We're learning from our viewers, and they're learning from us. We're all learning.
Actually, today I was doing a class in Mediumship, and the exercise that we had to do is read the bad part of another person, their bad attribute, and it was one of the hardest thing to do because we always tend to spin it in a positive way, and then we had to get spirit to come and help in confirming those traits of the other person. It was an interesting way of looking at things. The person that I was reading, she was what do you call it? She doesn't listen. She will do whatever she wants to do. She goes against. Pardon?
She's a free spirit.
100%. And I was telling her this, and then her father came in and he goes and showed me those things, and I go, oh my God, you're just like your dad. She was, yep. I said, well, he hugs you and he loves you, but continue doing what you're doing, because although we see it as bad, but it's actually, it is her. It's what made her as a person. And as long as she's not hurting others and she's just free for being herself, nobody should be judging.
Mm-hmm. She's perfectly imperfect, just like the rest of us.
Yeah.
We're perfectly imperfect.
Perfection in the imperfection. That is the hard part. knowing to take the time to realize you are here to learn and try to question yourself as to what it is you are meant to learn when facing the situation in front of you. At least is the hardest part for me.
Hmm.
It
Sometimes
wasn't.
the lesson isn't obvious,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah.
So sometimes we do have to, it takes time to become obvious. I think it's more important that you ask the questions to yourself than whether you actually come up with the answers. Do you know what I mean by that? Because you're like actually putting in the effort to ask the question will prompt a response, either even on a subconscious level. You'll be creating that space to learn. So whether it comes in a really conscious way and you're like, oh, that's what I learned from that situation, or whether it comes in a subconscious way, opening the door by saying, what did I learn from this situation, and sitting with it allows that response to come into the subconscious mind as well at some point. So I would say I think that we tend to want to be perfectionists about our learning too. And we have to sort of go with the flow and be compassionate with ourselves. If we don't get the lesson, it's okay. It doesn't mean we've missed it. It just means it's not obvious at the moment, and just allow that to be as it is. Right. So, but we do tend to be hard on ourselves for things like that.
Yeah, and one of the things is that you don't have to clear or clean everything all at once when it comes.
Mhm.
Like Dennis mentioned, you can ask the questions and just sleep on them,
Mhm.
and they might show up in a day or two, or at another event which is similar to that one, and then you go, oh, now I get it, I see it.
Yep.
And as long as we're good to ourselves, we're not too hard on ourselves, because we tend to do that for some reason.
Mhm.
Why we tend to do
Programming.
it. Yeah.
We'll blame the programming. Yeah, the effort is the reward itself. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, yeah.
Yeah. The effort to do it, that is the journey itself. So, and Sharon says, understanding people's perspective is very important. If we can understand each other's point of view, you will understand more what the other person is trying to say and believe. Then you can find peace in yourself and others. Yeah, because, having a shared understanding of the world is what we all try to go for. I talk about this actually with my business hat. So having a shared understanding of what's happening at the the management table, right? We need a shared understanding of how we're going forward with the company. That's what we go forward with, is that shared understanding. That's where you find the commonalities in people's actions and beliefs, is starting to pick out those because isn't that when you feel like you belong, like you feel like you have connected with somebody, when you have shared beliefs or you have shared understanding of something. That's
Hmm.
how you start to find those common threads with people. And so, that's one way of doing that, is trying to make sure that we can step back and create a shared understanding by looking at things from different perspectives. And there's never just yours and theirs. There's many in a situation. So it's good to remember that there's more than just yours and theirs. There's always multiple perspectives. So,
It
and the
usually
shared
comes.
is this thread that goes through the middle of it.
Mhm. I was going to say is that commonalities between people is what gets us close together.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so once we start seeing the good in others, or well, once we start to see our attributes in the other person, then we are able to not only forgive, but actually to get close to each other
Mm-hmm.
in a different way. For example, if you're on a holiday and you don't need to bump into anybody. You hear a Canadian accent behind you. Oh my God, where are you from? Toronto. Oh, I'm from Ottawa. Great, awesome. You have to go try this restaurant. It's down the street. It's the best place. You will get your family and you'll run to that restaurant and you'll try it.
Mm-hmm.
If someone stops you in the middle of the street and say, "Hey, by the way, go try this restaurant. It's really good," you're gonna look at them. What's wrong with you? Why are you talking to me? But
Right.
just because we had this commonality, oh, we come from the same region, the same country. There's common principle between us, we tend to put our guard down and we become more compassionate and understanding of the other person.
Mm-hmm. And that starts to create that intimacy.
Mm-hmm.
Not the sexual intimacy. I mean, like the intimate conversations that you have with people. When you start to connect in that way, you can start to create those intimate conversations where you're peeling back the layers of the masks that we tend to wear. Right? But you can't peel back layers of the mask if there's no commonalities. So we tend to have this layer, shielding, yeah. And then we start to pull down the layers of shielding as you start to realize that there's common elements here. Okay, so they have an understanding of being Canadian in your example, right? They understand that that's like, they understand, oh, they've been to Ottawa. They know what it's like here. That's cool. You know, you start to peel back those layers of shielding that we tend to have up until it becomes you're capable to have the intimate conversations, you know. So yeah, creates intimacy.
One time we were in Paris actually, and I found the supermarket. I said, "Okay, we're gonna go to the supermarket and see what they have." And we're looking at the stuff, and they had a place where they sell food, and it was like beautiful. So we started talking to this lady behind the counter, and she was, "Where are you from?" "Canada." "Oh, from Quebec." "Oh my God, I love it!" And she listens to the CBC radio, the French one, and she loves Chico to me. I still remember that. She laughs every time she mentions that name. And we became friends just because she liked Canadians, especially Quebecers. So she put more food than when we actually needed and charged us less because there's that connection that was just that bond that was just created, and it was amazing. It was really amazing to see that happen.
Well, and isn't that an interesting thing when you look at COVID?
Mm.
How have we created those bonds? We were so used to creating them before COVID in person like that, meeting up with somebody, being face to face with them, and creating that shared understanding, that shared bond experience. And now we've had to do that online. And how is that working? You know, is that I've made some wonderful friends by doing it. The one thing that I'm going to find interesting is meeting them in person, because is it the same? Are you able to read the energy of that person? Maybe the energy is really different from what you think it is. You know, I mean, these are questions. And Chem says now we communicate soul to soul. Yeah. And I think that is what's happened. It's created that because there is no time or space in spiritual, in the spiritual dimensions, right? There's no time or space. We can be there.
And the good part about all of this is that it opened up for us to meet people outside of our close society.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the friends that you just talked about, maybe they're in the US, they're in a different country. And Zoom just made it so close that we're able to connect with people. I have people, I worked with people in Brazil, I worked with people in Mexico, in the Philippines, in the UK, and that wouldn't have happened if we didn't get used to the new technology of sitting in front of each other on a with a computer and what do you call it, a camera, and talk to someone.
Mm-hmm.
So it gave us this opportunity to grow outside of our geographic area.
Yeah, and it made us realize that we are capable of making those connections
Yeah.
without the actual physical stuff involved, which I think is great. Sharon has a comment here that just happened to me the other day at a restaurant. I said something in their language and they gave me free fresh hot bread.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Because that also that does a few things, right? When you say something in somebody else's language, it's showing them that you're putting in effort, that you respect their language, that you're trying, so you're respecting their culture and their so it's showing kindness and respect, which is beautiful. And so that's often rewarded, right? With them showing kindness and respect to us. And that's how human connection works.
Mm-hmm.
It's about building that. Beautiful example. Thanks, Sharon.
Thanks for sharing. So
Yeah, I'm looking forward to travel too, LA.
I fully agree. You have to travel again. I was in Italy and the UK a couple of weeks ago for work, and oh my god, I missed it. I really did. I really did miss all of that because although it was for work, travel takes you places. Although you've seen them, I've been to Italy many times, and I've been to the place where I go to for work. I know the place. I know the restaurants. It's not like it's something new. It's not, oh my god, it's so beautiful or something. No, I know it. It's familiar, but it lifts your spirit up for some reason. It just brings it up, and you say, "Oh, now I'm in a different environment. I'm in a different with different people, different language, different food, and so on." And it just there's something magical about it.
Mm-hmm.
Even if it's the same language, even if I travel from here to Toronto, I'm in Montreal, by the way. It still makes it different. There's something magical about it. You're out of your zone.
Well, it creates that environment to learn, right?
That
And
truth.
learning is exciting. So Alain says, whenever I traveled, I always learned the words thank you in whatever the local language is. In my mind, these are the most powerful words in any language. It will take you anywhere. That's great advice, for sure. Gratitude is hugely impactful in relationships, for sure. And I think it's
Okay.
something that we forget a lot of times. So, yeah, good for you for remembering that because it's important.
It is. Thank you and good morning or hello, whatever language it is. It's very important. And I find locals it just enjoys it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, you're kind of like, you're connecting with them. That's what it is. You're connecting with them. Other than showing them that you care and you're speaking their language, is there's that connection
Yeah. The energetic connections that we make.
through words.
Mm-hmm. Because words have power
Yep,
and energy, right? That's where spells come from. That's why they're called spells,
from
because we
words.
spell them. Mm-hmm.
And it's very important since you mentioned the spell, and I know we mentioned it last time, is words other than spells. I wanna find another word for it, but words program.
Mm-hmm.
They're the foundation of programming. So talking to yourself, it's very important because you program yourself for the future. And one lady that I was coaching a while back, and she says, "Oh, I'm so stupid." No, you're not. You're the smartest person that I know. If you continue saying that, over time, what would happen? You dumb yourself out
Mm-hmm.
inadvertently. And then you start getting treated in that fashion. And the sad part is you move it onto your children too. And yes, because we're water, we just program it and it stays in us and it goes from us to our children and everybody around us. So they
Yeah.
know we're losers. But if you say, well, there's a mistake in this calculation. There's a mistake. It has nothing to do with you. You missed something, that's fine. You missed it. You one cell in Excel, you didn't add it in. That's fine. It's not a problem. You correct that. But it has nothing to do with you being a loser or you being unworthy or something, whatever it is. We start giving ourselves adjectives and we go with it, and over time it just like automatically just comes out. Pre-programming, automatically. So it destroys your soul, it destroys everything that you are, and then you become it.
Self-fulfilling prophecy, right?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah. So if you think you're good or you think you're bad, you're right.
Was it the most intelligent person?
He worked on it, yeah.
Well, he worked on it. Who was it? Socrates, where he said, I know nothing, and he knew everything. And when he said, I know nothing, it is at that point that they acknowledge that he knows everything. Because if you know that you don't know, you continue learning to acquire. But if you know that you know everything, then there's nothing left to do.
Half of being smart is knowing what you're dumb at.
Yeah. It was not the most intelligent person. Oh, okay. Einstein was not? Or Socrates? I guess Einstein.
No, I mean, and some of it is about believing in yourself, right? Because he believed in his theories. And that's part of what got him through. And if we believe in something and we believe in it strongly enough,
we embody it.
Yeah. And that's manifestation.
Yep.
And it can work for us or against us. That's where the programming comes in. That's why we do the healing journey, because we want to get rid of some of the denser programs so that we can embody the lighter programming.
Yeah, Henry Ford said that. Whether you can or can't, you're right.
Yep.
So
that's right. Thanks, Sean. That's the one I was trying to think of.
Yeah. So you're always right with whatever you want to do. So pull yourself together and have compassion for yourself, and you'll see how things happen. See, in the old days, I used to get stressed out. Oh my God, we're not going to meet our numbers. Oh my God. And then, I'll fall into pieces. Now I don't do that.
Spoken like a true accountant.
Super glue worked out fine. Now after all the clearing that I went through in a dark night of the soul, but it wasn't a dark night, it was a dark bloody 2 years or so. So when you go through that tunnel and you're rebirthed again, there's no weight anymore that is holding you back. Then you're more rational about what is happening. So now I do my job at 110%. If I achieve the numbers, great. If I don't, great. But no one could come back and say, well, you didn't do your job. No, I did my job fully to a certain degree. I can't make up stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And now I created even a good relationship with my boss. I have multiple of them, with all of them. And with that, there's an open relationship whereby, by the way, we're not going to meet this number this month. This is what we did. We're trying to do better over here, and hopefully we can achieve certain part of it or recover part of it. And that actually lifted me to a higher level in other people's eyes, mm-hmm. that he knows what he's doing, even though he did not achieve his target.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the beauty of it. It loses its heaviness and its burdenness on you. It is what it is.
Mm-hmm. That authenticity, and he's equipped with what he needs, right?
Yeah. Because the ego is out. The ego is not there anymore. I'm not defending myself. Like, if I don't achieve the numbers, it doesn't mean that I'm a horrible person or I don't know what I'm doing.
Yes.
So that ego is out. There's nothing to defend anymore. There's only what is being presented. And that's the beauty of it.
Good night, Chum. Thanks for
Good
coming.
night. And I think we're getting to actually we passed the hour. We're an hour and my God, I didn't feel it. Yes. It was such of a second. Oh my God, this is awesome. Well, thanks everybody for participating tonight. It was an awesome evening. Can't wait for next week to see what topic. And Sharon, good night. And if you guys have a topic in mind that you'd like to hear about, please drop us a note either to Tanis or myself, and we'll definitely work on it. Thank you so much for being here. I'll just remind everybody that June 12th, please pencil it into your diary. Make sure you're free and available. Not free. You're expensive, but available for that day.
You're valued.
You're valued. So be available for that day. There's going to be an interesting things happening. More to come. And do check our courses on twillowlifestyle.ca.
Thanks, everyone, for coming. Lots of love and light.
Thank you. And have a good night.